Who's that? Commander Claw. Who's bad? Commander Claw.
Welcome back to another episode of Breaking Brews. I'm your host, Commander Claw. If it's your first time here, welcome. You are probably trying to decide how to brew Sita Varma Masked Racer. Well, I will tell you this is another Simic commander, and I hate to say it like that. My expectation for Simic commander is to go tall and use counters and draw lots of cards. Yes, not much to that. But do not underestimate that because a lot of your opponent's decks probably can't handle a creature that's 6/6, 10/10, 14/14, 24/24, reach, trample. Yeah, it can get out of hand. Most players can't handle creatures with those type of keywords. And Simic does that well. Why do you keep drawing cards, staying ahead of your opponents? So don't underestimate the basicness of Simic commanders, because they do get ugly real quick. But let's start off with Sita Varma Masked Racer for green and a blue. 2/3 body legendary creature, human rogue. The reason why I say rogue like that, because rogues are a creature type that are known for being unblockable. And we will be showcasing that later on in this video. But anyways, this commander has the ability Exhaust, which is popular in the Aetherdrift set. So what do? Sita Varma has to be on the battlefield. Then you got to tap X, 2 green and a blue. Put X +1/+1 counters on Sita Varma. Then you may have the base power and toughness of each creature you control become equal to Sita Varma's power until end of turn. So let me scratch my eye real quick. Sorry for that. So honestly, you could just boost her power in other ways through equipments and aura enchantments. Then activate the Exhaust ability just for 3 mana. You don't have to put X +1/+1 counters on her. I think that is the trap that new players will probably see. That I need to tap all this mana for her to use the Exhaust ability and make her big. No. If she's already at 10/10 and use her Exhaust ability, bam, that's it. They get +10/+10, those other creatures. But you are in Simic, so you will be using a lot of mana doublers, and you have been ramping a lot. So it is advantageous for you to add lots of mana to X. So if you tap 10, a total of 13 mana, and give Sita Varma +10/+10, all your creatures are going to get at least +12/+12 because she is already a 2/3. Without further ado, let me show you some cards that are better with her in the 99. So Sita Varma is going to be mainly with a power theme, synergy power theme. You want your creatures to be big. You got to buffer using aura enchantments or artifact equipments. Right here on the right hand side, we have Prime Speaker Zegana for 2 green, 2 blue. Merfolk Wizard, legendary creature, 1/1 body. She says when she enters with X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is the greatest power among other creatures you control. When she enters, draw cards equal to its power. So it's advantageous to have a very big creature on the battlefield on your side. And bam, she gives that many +1/+1 counters. If it's like Galta Primal Hunger to your left here, she comes in with 12 +1/+1 counters, and you get to draw 13 cards. Also, I just thought about it. You're using Simic. So you have blue in your pip. You can also steal your opponent's creatures. There's a bunch of blue theft cards that you can steal your opponent's creatures. And if they're a big creature and you play Prime Speaker Zegana, bam, you can take advantage of that. Moving on to the next card. So something popular you can do with +1/+1 counters or any other counter is move counters. Move it, get out the way. Yeah, something like that. So we got Zimone, Paradox Sculptor for 2, green and a blue, 1/4 body, human wizard, legendary creature. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. Okay. Then tap a blue and a green, double the number of each kind of counter on up to 2 target creatures and or artifacts you control. So if you've never seen Zimone, she's great at doubling counters and doubling each type of counters. And she can double counters on creatures or artifacts. So all those artifacts that have charge counters, some other type of counter, you can literally double it. Also, another card you might need to know is Bioshift on the left-hand side. You got to be able to move counters for combat tricks. So let's say you have Sita Varma and an opponent decides to block Sita Varma or another creature, one of yours, and you just need to deal that damage to them. Tap Bioshift for either blue or green and move all those +1/+1 counters from one of those creatures to the other and deal combat damage, hopefully for lethal, and you can win the game. Easy. So when you're building this deck, you got to consider counterspells. Simic is known to have counterspells. This is a really good card I have over here to the right. It's called Plasm Capture. For 2 green, 2 blue, it's an instant counter target spell. When it says counter target spell, that means it can counter all the spells. That's good. It's not limited to anything. Then it says at the beginning of your next pre-combat main phase, add X mana in any combination of colors where X is that spell's mana value. So one good target to always target is somebody's commander. If their commander is 5 CMC, you already know you can get 5 CMC somewhere. It gets even better if a player casts a giant X spell. So however much mana they tap into X, you could possibly get a giant amount, a good amount of mana to add to your next pool. Overall, Plasm Capture is just a budget version of Mana Drain. Mana Drain over here to the left is a blue staple, an expensive card, not budget friendly, but I'll read it to you. For 2 blue, instant, counter target spell. At the beginning of your next main phase, add amount of colorless mana to that spell's mana value. So in different ways, Plasm Capture is better because you get to add a certain mana color versus generic mana. Moving on to the next card. So with Sita Varma, Mass Racer, you're adding +1/+1 counters. And when you have auras, enchantments, equipments, and counters on creatures, that is considered modification. So let me introduce Silk Guard to you. Over here on the right, tap X and a green. It's an instant. Put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to X target creatures you control. Auras, equipments, and modified creatures you control gain hexproof until end of turn. Equipment, auras you control, encounters are modifications. That's what I'm saying. So when you're deck building and you're looking for cards, look for the word modified or modification. You get a bunch of redundant abilities, but they play off +1/+1 counters or aura enchantments or equipments on top of creatures. Otherwise, this is just a budget version of Heroic Intervention. For 2 mana, it's an instant. Permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Moving on to the next card. So, when you're doing +1/+1 themes, proliferation is an important ability that you gotta add. That one more counter that you can just add off a triggered ability can win you a game. It can put pressure on your opponents. Nonetheless, I got to introduce to you Blighted Agent. I mention him all the time in blue cards because it's just a nice, easy, affordable creature for budget decks or non-budget decks to win games. Blighted Agent for 1 in a blue. Human Rogue. Rogue has Infect, and Blighted Agent is unblockable. It's a 1/1 body. Easy. So you attack and do a total of 10 damage with Blighted Agent. You can kill an opponent because they got 10 poison counters. Easy as that. But there's going to be times where your opponents just blow up Blighted Agent, and you got to be able to add counters. You're already going to be doing that with Sita Varma, so why not proliferate? Excuse me. Evolution Sage for 2 and a green. Elf Druid has landfall. Whenever you play a land, proliferate. Bam. Easy as that. Moving on to the next card. So I had to include Atraxa Praetor's voice in this video just in general because you can add Sita Varma as a 99 creature for Atraxa, okay? Because Atraxa does proliferate. However, we're going back to playing off the modification mechanic. Over here to the right, we have Mutational Advantage. For 1 green and a blue, instant, permanents you control with counters on them gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to those permanents this turn. Proliferate. So, this is just another great card to add to any +1/+1 counter themed deck. Most likely they are green and blue. So, this is just one of those redundant spells that has redundant effects in the Magic universe that you can find to just add more consistency for protection spells for your commanders. Yes. And it's even good because it proliferates. So even that infecting for that blighted agent, that could be that game one missing counter that you needed to win the match. Moving on to the next. So if you ever played mono green, you know that you're limited on card draw. However, if you're playing with this commander or plan on building with this commander, you are in Simic color, so you can draw cards. So being able to visibly see your top card at instant speed anytime you can is advantageous. So why not play Elven Chorus 3 and a green enchantment? You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may cast creature spells from the top of your library. Creatures you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. That is great. Seeing the top card of your library, being able to cast a card from the top of your library is like having an extra card in hand, but in a way it's mostly protected, especially against players who are running a bunch of discard effects, or after they deal combat damage to you, that you have to discard a card. You get to see, with Elven Course, you visibly see that top card, and you kind of can, play to that. Otherwise, there's another redundant spell that's similar to it is Vizier of the Menagerie. For 3 in the green, it does the same thing. Easy as that. Moving on to the summary. So, thank you for watching this video. If you plan on building Sita Varma, I don't say it's the most fun commander. I don't even saw it as interesting. It's pretty straightforward. You want to make her big. You want to go tall. You're going to add a bunch of +1/+1 counters, proliferation theme, modification mechanics. You're going to take advantage of her exhaustibility to ultimately win the game and add a bunch of trample effects for your creatures. It's literally exhaust is an ability that you can trigger at any time. Just tap the necessary mana and however much you want to add. But I think she's really good in a way where you can tease her power boost. Tease her power boost against your opponents. So in a way, you can play mind games. And especially, you have winning options by giving her Infect or playing with creatures with Infect. Yes. Thank you for watching this video. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. I'm out. Commander Claw. Peace.